Welcome to Volume and Vision. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with absolutely nothing running endlessly in the background of your mind. No forgotten emails. No unfinished assignments whispering for your attention. No constant feeling that you're missing something important. Just clarity. Now think about the opposite. You're trying to focus on one task, but your mind suddenly reminds you about a message you forgot to reply to. A few seconds later, you remember that bill you haven't paid yet. Then an idea for a new project appears. Before you know it, you're checking your phone, opening another tab, and somehow you've spent 20 minutes doing everything except the one thing you actually sat down to accomplish. If that sounds familiar, you're not lazy. You're not undisciplined, and you're definitely not the only one. The truth is, most people believe productivity is about squeezing more work into less time. They buy planners, install new apps, watch motivational videos, and create colorful schedules hoping they'll finally become more productive. But after a few days, everything falls apart. Why? Because the real problem isn't managing time. It's managing attention. And that's exactly what today's book teaches. David Allen's Getting Things Done isn't just another productivity book filled with motivational quotes or unrealistic morning routines. It's a practical system designed to help you stop carrying your entire life inside your head. The surprising part is that the goal of this system isn't to make you work every second of the day. It's to help you feel calm. Because when your mind is free from constantly remembering things, it becomes incredibly powerful at solving problems, creating ideas, and focusing deeply. Think of your brain like a computer. Imagine opening 50 different applications without closing any of them. At first everything works normally. Then the computer starts slowing down. Programs freeze. The fan gets louder. Eventually the entire system struggles to perform even simple tasks. Most of us live exactly like that. Every unfinished promise, every unread email, every decision waiting to be made, every goal we haven't started. They're all running quietly in the background. Even if you're not consciously thinking about them, your brain hasn't forgotten them. That's why you can sit down to study and suddenly remember that you forgot to call someone 3 days ago. That's why creative ideas often disappear because another responsibility interrupts them. That's why relaxing sometimes feels impossible. Your brain keeps reminding you because it believes those things are important for your survival. And honestly, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Thousands of years ago, forgetting important information could mean losing food, missing danger, or failing to protect your family. Today, instead of remembering where the nearest source of water is, your brain is trying to remember passwords, deadlines, meetings, subscriptions, shopping lists, birthdays, project ideas, assignments, appointments, and hundreds of tiny commitments. The hardware hasn't changed, only the workload has. That's why modern life feels mentally exhausting even when you're not physically tired. Here's something fascinating. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to enjoy your free time when you know there's unfinished work waiting for you? You're watching a movie, but part of your mind keeps saying, "You should probably finish that report." You're eating dinner, but don't forget to reply to that email. You're talking to your family. What if I miss tomorrow's deadline? Nothing terrible is happening, yet your mind refuses to fully relax. Many people think this constant mental chatter is normal. David Allen argues that it doesn't have to be. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first you barely notice it. Weeks pass. Months pass. Eventually you forget you're even wearing it because it has become your normal. Then one day someone removes the backpack. Suddenly you realize how heavy it actually was. Mental clutter works exactly the same way. Most people don't realize how much energy they're spending simply trying to remember everything. The first breakthrough in getting things done is surprisingly simple. Your mind is an incredible place for creating ideas. It is a terrible place for storing them. Read that again. Your mind is excellent at thinking. It is terrible at remembering. Those are two completely different jobs. Imagine asking the world's greatest artist to work as a filing cabinet. Or hiring an Olympic athlete to organize paperwork all day. It's a waste of talent. Your brain was built to imagine possibilities, recognize patterns, solve problems, and make decisions. Instead, most people force it to act like a storage device. Every time you tell yourself, "I'll remember that later," you're increasing your mental load. And the strange part is, your brain doesn't trust you. If it believes something matters, it keeps bringing it back. Again and again, and again. That's why random thoughts appear while you're taking a shower, or while you're trying to sleep, or in the middle of an important conversation. Your brain isn't trying to distract you. It's trying to protect you from forgetting. Understanding this changes everything. Instead of fighting your brain, David Allen suggests building a system that works with it. Think about how pilots fly airplanes. Modern airplanes contain thousands of components. No pilot tries to remember every inspection step before takeoff. They use checklists, not because they're forgetful, because they're professionals. Surgeons use checklists. Engineers use checklists. Astronauts use checklists. Even elite military teams rely on structured systems instead of memory. Why? Because memory is unreliable. The more important the task becomes, the less you should depend on remembering everything. Yet many of us expect ourselves to manage our entire personal and professional lives using nothing but memory. That's like trying to build a skyscraper without blueprints. Eventually something gets forgotten, and every forgotten commitment creates another source of stress. Now here's where most productivity advice goes wrong. People think they need stronger willpower. But willpower is limited. Systems are not. Imagine two students preparing for the same exam. The first student depends entirely on motivation. Whenever they feel inspired, they study. Whenever motivation disappears, they stop. The second student creates a simple routine. Every evening at 7 o'clock, they sit down, review their list, and begin with the next small task. Who do you think is more likely to succeed? Usually it isn't the more motivated person. It's the one with the better system. Motivation is emotional. Systems are reliable. This is why highly productive people often look calm. They're not carrying every responsibility inside their heads. They've built external systems that remember things for them. Imagine having a trusted assistant who never forgets anything. Every appointment, every idea, every responsibility, every deadline. Now imagine that assistant is available 24 hours a day. That's exactly what David Allen wants you to create. Not another complicated productivity app. Not an expensive planner. Just one trusted place where everything that has your attention can safely live outside your mind. Because once your brain knows something has been captured somewhere reliable, it finally stops reminding you every few minutes. That's the real secret. The goal isn't writing things down. The goal is convincing your brain that it no longer needs to hold on to them. Think about how much energy that could save every single day. How many interruptions would disappear? How much deeper could you focus? How much more present could you become with your family, your work, or even your hobbies? The biggest obstacle isn't lack of intelligence. It isn't lack of discipline. It's mental overload. And mental overload slowly steals your attention without you even noticing. Have you ever opened your phone just to check one notification? And 20 minutes later you're watching videos you never intended to watch. That's not always because you're addicted to social media. Sometimes your brain is simply looking for relief. Constant mental pressure makes easy distractions incredibly attractive. When your mind feels overwhelmed, almost anything seems easier than the important task waiting for you. That's why procrastination isn't always laziness. Sometimes it's a symptom of confusion. Sometimes it's uncertainty. And sometimes it's the result of carrying far too many unfinished commitments at once. Before trying to work harder, we first need to make our minds lighter. Because a clear mind naturally becomes a focused mind. And that's exactly where David Allen begins his remarkable system. Not with complicated schedules, not with endless productivity hacks, but with one simple question. What is currently occupying space inside your mind, and why are you still carrying it? So what is currently occupying space inside your mind, and why are you still carrying it? Most people never stop to answer that question. Instead, they keep moving. One task leads to another. One responsibility replaces the previous one. New ideas arrive faster than old ones are completed. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and eventually life starts feeling like an endless race with no finish line. Ironically, the busier we become, the less time we spend thinking about what truly deserves our attention. We're constantly reacting. A notification appears, we respond. An email arrives, we reply. Someone asks for a favor, we immediately say yes. A new opportunity appears, we jump toward it. Glance, this feels productive. After all, we're doing something all the time. But activity and progress are not the same thing. Imagine boarding a train without checking its destination. The train moves quickly. It never stops. You're constantly passing beautiful landscapes, crossing cities, and covering miles. But after several hours, you realize you're heading in the wrong direction. Moving faster didn't help. It only took you farther away from where you wanted to go. This is exactly what happens when we confuse being busy with being productive. The world rewards speed, but meaningful progress rewards direction. David Allen introduces an idea that seems almost too simple to matter, yet it changes the way you approach every responsibility. Whenever something enters your life, don't immediately ask, "How difficult is this?" Instead ask, "What exactly is it?" That might sound obvious, but think about how rarely we actually define the things demanding our attention. Suppose you write down, fitness. What does that actually mean? Do you want to lose weight? Build muscle? Improve stamina? Start walking every morning? Run a marathon? Without clarity, your brain can't create action. The same thing happens with work. Right, start business. It sounds exciting, but your mind has no idea where to begin. Should you register a company, find customers, research competitors, design a logo, learn accounting? Everything becomes equally important, and when everything feels important, nothing gets started. Clarity removes resistance. The more specific something becomes, the easier it becomes to act. Instead of writing, learn programming. You might write, complete the first lesson of a Java course. Instead of, become healthy, write, walk for 20 minutes after dinner. Instead of, organize my room, write, fold the clothes on the chair. Notice what changed. The goal became smaller, but more importantly, it became visible. Our brains don't like vague instructions. They like concrete actions. Imagine asking someone to build a bridge, without any measurements, without a design, without knowing where the bridge begins or ends. They would stare at you in complete confusion. Yet that's exactly how many of us speak to ourselves every day. Work harder. Be more disciplined. Fix your life. These aren't instructions. They're wishes. And wishes rarely become reality. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself whenever you're stuck is incredibly simple. What is the very next physical action? Not the entire project. Not the final goal. Just the next visible action. Imagine you want to write a book. That sounds enormous. Your brain immediately imagines hundreds of pages, publishers, editing, marketing, reviews, and countless hours of work. No wonder people procrastinate. Now ask a different question. What's the next physical action? Maybe it's opening a blank document, or writing a title, or brainstorming 10 chapter ideas. Suddenly the impossible becomes manageable. This tiny shift changes everything. Our minds fear uncertainty far more than effort. Most people believe they procrastinate because tasks are difficult. In reality, they procrastinate because tasks are unclear. The clearer the next step becomes, the smaller the mental resistance. Think back to your school days. Some teachers gave confusing assignments. You'd spend half the time simply trying to understand what you were supposed to do. Other teachers explained everything so clearly that starting felt almost effortless. Nothing about your intelligence changed. Only the clarity changed. Life works exactly the same way. Confusion creates hesitation. Clarity creates momentum. Now let's talk about something almost everyone struggles with. Ideas. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas rarely appear when you're sitting at your desk trying to think? They show up while you're walking, driving, taking a shower, cooking dinner, trying to fall asleep, or right in the middle of another important task. Ideas have terrible timing. Imagine you're preparing an important presentation. You're completely focused. Suddenly your brain whispers, "You know what would be a great business idea?" Then another thought appears. "You should also learn photography." A few seconds later, what if you started a podcast? Within minutes you're researching microphones instead of finishing your presentation. The strange thing is that these ideas aren't bad. Some of them are brilliant. The problem is timing. Not every good idea deserves immediate attention. Successful people don't ignore inspiration. They capture it. There's an important difference. Imagine carrying a small notebook, or using a simple note-taking app. The moment an interesting idea appears, write it down. Not because you're going to work on it immediately. Because you're giving your brain permission to let it go. Think about that for a second. Writing something down isn't about remembering. It's about forgetting. You're telling your mind, relax, we won't lose this. You don't need to keep reminding me. That tiny habit protects your focus better than almost any productivity technique. Without a capture system, every idea competes with your current work. With a capture system, every idea has its own parking space. Imagine trying to drive through a city where people leave their cars in the middle of every road. Traffic would become impossible. Our thoughts behave the same way. Ideas need somewhere to park. Otherwise they block everything else. Another common mistake is treating every thought as urgent. Not everything deserves action today. Some ideas belong next month. Others belong next year. Some should never be acted upon at all. One of the greatest forms of wisdom isn't knowing what to do. It's knowing what not to do. Modern culture celebrates saying yes. Say yes to opportunities. Say yes to networking. Say yes to side projects. Say yes to learning another skill. Eventually your calendar becomes full, but your attention becomes empty. Every commitment, no matter how exciting, costs something. It costs time, energy, focus, and attention. These resources are limited. Imagine trying to fill 10 glasses using only one bottle of water. Every glass receives something, but none of them becomes full. That's exactly how scattered attention works. Your career gets 20%. Your family gets 20%. Your health gets 20%. Your hobbies get 20%. Your personal growth gets whatever remains. Nothing receives your full presence. The result isn't balance, it's exhaustion. David Allen encourages us to become more intentional about every commitment we accept. Before saying yes, ask yourself, am I also saying no to something else? Because every yes automatically creates a no. Agreeing to one project usually means less time for another. Accepting another meeting often means giving up an hour of deep work. Staying awake late tonight usually means sacrificing tomorrow's energy. Every decision has an invisible price. Wise people learn to see both sides. There's another invisible burden many people carry. Unmade decisions. Imagine receiving a letter. Instead of opening it, you place it on your desk. Days pass. Every time you see it, your brain reminds you. You still haven't opened that letter. Now imagine 5 letters, then 20, then 50. Eventually the unopened letters create more stress than their actual contents probably would have. Life is full of these unopened letters. The course you haven't decided whether to buy. The conversation you've been avoiding. The application you haven't submitted. The old photos you keep meaning to organize. The book you've wanted to read for months. Every undecided commitment quietly consumes mental energy. Sometimes making a small decision immediately saves far more energy than postponing it for weeks. That's why highly organized people often appear so calm. It's not because they have fewer responsibilities. It's because they leave fewer open loops. An open loop is anything your mind believes still requires attention. Close enough of those loops, and something remarkable happens. Silence. Not outside, inside. For perhaps the first time in a long time, your mind begins to trust that everything important has a place. And when that trust develops, something even more valuable begins to return. Your ability to focus deeply on the present moment. Because a focused mind isn't created by forcing concentration. It's created by removing the reasons your attention keeps wandering. And that brings us to one of the simplest habits in the entire GTD system, a habit so small that most people underestimate it, yet so powerful that it can completely change the way you deal with everyday tasks. The famous 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule. At first, it sounds almost too simple to matter. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. No planning, no scheduling, no adding it to another to-do list. Just finish it. Most people hear this advice and think, that can't possibly make a big difference. But here's the surprising truth. It's not about saving 2 minutes. It's about protecting your attention. Imagine walking through your house and noticing a coffee mug on the table. You think, I'll wash it later. Then you notice yesterday's clothes on the chair. I'll fold them later. A package arrives. I'll open it later. An email pops up. I'll reply tonight. A friend messages you. I'll respond tomorrow. None of these tasks feel important. But together, they become dozens of tiny promises your brain has to remember. Every unfinished task becomes another open tab inside your mind. And just like a browser slows down with too many tabs, your brain begins to lose speed. Now imagine a different approach. You finish your coffee. You immediately wash the mug. A message takes 30 seconds to answer. You reply. The document needs one signature. You sign it. One by one, those tiny responsibilities disappear before they have a chance to become mental clutter. This isn't about becoming obsessed with work. It's about refusing to let small tasks become big sources of stress. Think of snowflakes. One snowflake weighs almost nothing. But enough snowflakes together can collapse an entire roof. Tiny unfinished tasks behave exactly the same way. They accumulate silently. One forgotten email, one unpaid bill, one phone call, one form, one reminder, one favor. Eventually, you don't feel busy because of one huge responsibility. You feel overwhelmed because of hundreds of tiny unfinished ones. The 2-minute rule prevents that pile from ever forming. Of course, this doesn't mean you should interrupt important work every few minutes. If you're deeply focused on writing, designing, studying, or solving a complex problem, protect that focus. Simply capture the task and return to it later. Deep concentration is one of the most valuable abilities you can develop. Never sacrifice an hour of focused work just to answer a message that could easily wait another 30 minutes. Productivity isn't about reacting instantly. It's about responding intentionally. This leads us to another habit that quietly transforms everything: processing. Many people confuse collecting tasks with actually managing them. They write things down, create lists, download planning apps, fill notebooks with goals, yet somehow, nothing changes. Why? Because collecting without processing simply creates organized chaos. Imagine placing every piece of mail directly into your living room. Bills, advertisements, letters, receipts, invitations, packages, everything. At least it's all in one place. But eventually, that room becomes impossible to use. Your task list works the same way. Writing things down is only the first step. Eventually, every item must face a simple question. What does this require? Not everything deserves action. Some things are simply information. A receipt, a recipe, a useful article. These belong in reference, not on today's action list. Some ideas are exciting but not urgent. Learning photography, starting a podcast, writing a novel, traveling across Europe. These don't need to compete with today's responsibilities. They deserve their own place. Perhaps one day, perhaps next year, perhaps never. And that's perfectly fine. One of the greatest sources of stress comes from treating every possibility like an immediate obligation. Not every dream has to begin today. Sometimes the best decision is simply to preserve the idea until the right season of life arrives. Think about a gardener. A gardener doesn't plant every seed on the same day. Different plants grow during different seasons. Life works exactly the same way. Some opportunities are meant for now. Others need time. Wisdom isn't planting everything immediately. Wisdom is planting the right seed at the right time. Another powerful habit David Allen encourages is separating projects from actions. This sounds obvious, yet most people don't do it. Imagine writing, launch online business. That's not an action. That's an outcome. A project. A project is made of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of individual actions. Research an idea, buy a domain, create a website, design a logo, write product descriptions, set up payment methods, test everything, publish, promote. Each one is its own action. Treating the entire project as one task is like writing. Build a house. Where do you even begin? The brain freezes because the instruction is far too large. Now compare that to sketch the floor plan. Suddenly, movement begins. Momentum always starts with movement, not perfection. Many people wait until they know every step before they begin. Successful people begin with the first clear step and discover the rest along the way. Imagine driving through thick fog at night. Your headlights don't illuminate the entire highway. They only show the next 100 meters. Yet that's enough to reach your destination. Life rarely reveals every answer in advance. It only reveals enough for the next step. Waiting for complete certainty often becomes another form of procrastination. Movement creates clarity, not the other way around. There's another reason why defining the next action matters. It reduces fear. The human brain often exaggerates anything that feels undefined. Suppose someone tells you, We need to talk. Immediately, your imagination starts working. Did something go wrong? Am I in trouble? Is there bad news? The uncertainty becomes more stressful than the conversation itself. Projects behave exactly the same way. Undefined projects appear much larger than they really are. Once they're broken into visible actions, the fear begins to disappear. Imagine climbing a mountain. If you stare only at the peak, it feels impossible. If you focus on the next step, eventually you're halfway there without realizing it. This principle applies to almost everything. Learning a language, building a business, finishing college, writing a book, improving your health, saving money. Every extraordinary achievement is simply thousands of ordinary actions completed consistently. Not dramatic bursts of motivation. Consistency. People often ask, how do successful people accomplish so much? Usually, they don't accomplish everything at once. They simply avoid stopping. One step, then another, then another. Momentum becomes their greatest advantage. And momentum is surprisingly fragile. It can disappear because of one thing. Decision fatigue. Every decision consumes mental energy. What should I do first? What should I wear? Should I answer emails now? Should I exercise today? Which project matters most? By evening, many people aren't physically tired. They're mentally exhausted from making decisions all day. This is why routines are so powerful. They remove unnecessary thinking. Imagine brushing your teeth. You don't spend 5 minutes debating whether today is a good day to brush them. The habit already made the decision. Imagine if important work became just as automatic. Not because you always felt motivated. Because the decision had already been made. Every morning, you already know where to begin. That's one of the hidden benefits of the GTD system. It reduces decision making. Instead of asking, what should I work on? Your trusted system already provides the answer. The mental energy you once spent deciding can now be used creating. That's a remarkable trade, but perhaps the greatest lesson hidden inside this entire system has nothing to do with productivity at all. It's about trust. Most people don't trust themselves. Not because they lack ability. Because they've broken too many promises to themselves. I'll remember. They forget. I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. I'll definitely start Monday. Monday becomes next month. Over time, something subtle happens. Your own brain stops believing your promises. That's why unfinished thoughts keep returning. Your mind doesn't trust that you'll handle them. David Allen's system slowly rebuilds that trust. Every captured task, every completed next action, every closed loop, every weekly review, each one sends the same message back to your brain. I've got this. You don't need to keep reminding me. And little by little, the noise becomes quieter. Not because life becomes easier, but because your mind finally believes it has a reliable partner. For the first time in years, your brain can stop acting as your reminder and return to what it was truly designed to do. Think, imagine, create, solve problems, and live fully in the moment. Because in the end, the goal was never to become a machine that works every waking hour. The goal was something far more valuable. To build a life where your mind is free enough to focus on what truly matters, instead of constantly chasing what you might forget. And that freedom doesn't come from doing more. It comes from thinking differently about everything you choose to carry. There's a famous saying that goes, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Think about that for a moment. Every January, millions of people make ambitious resolutions. This year, I'll get fit. This year, I'll read 50 books. This year, I'll save more money. This year, I'll finally start that business. A few weeks later, most of those goals quietly disappear. Not because people stopped caring, but because they depended on excitement instead of structure. Goals are wonderful because they give us direction. But systems are what actually move us there. Imagine two people standing at the bottom of the same mountain. Both dream of reaching the summit. The first person spends every day looking at the peak, imagining how incredible the view must be. The second person simply starts walking. Slowly, patiently, one step at a time. At the end of the day, the first person still has the dream. The second person has progress. Inspire. Systems deliver. David Allen understood something that many people overlook. Our lives are not shaped by the occasional big decision. They're shaped by thousands of tiny decisions we barely notice. Every time you choose to write something down instead of trying to remember it, you're shaping your future. Every time you define the next action instead of staring at a giant project, you're shaping your future. Every time you complete a small commitment instead of postponing it, you're shaping your future. Success rarely arrives all at once. It accumulates quietly, like drops of water filling a bucket. No single drop seems important, but eventually, the bucket becomes full. Most people underestimate small actions because they judge them individually. I only studied for 20 minutes. I only read 10 pages. I only walked for 15 minutes. I only saved a small amount of money. Yet they forget something incredibly important. Life keeps score. Every tiny action compounds. Imagine planting an oak tree. For years, it hardly seems to grow. You water it, protect it, wait patiently. Anyone passing by might wonder why you're wasting your time. Then, years later, that tiny sapling becomes a tree so strong that generations can rest beneath its shade. Great achievements grow exactly like that. Quietly, patiently, almost invisibly. Until one day, people call it an overnight success. What they never saw were the countless ordinary days that made extraordinary results possible. This brings us to another lesson hiding beneath the surface of getting things done. Perfection is the enemy of movement. Many people refuse to start because they want everything to be perfect. The perfect notebook, the perfect productivity app, the perfect morning routine, the perfect office, the perfect amount of free time, the perfect mindset. They believe success begins after everything is perfectly arranged. But life doesn't work that way. Imagine waiting for the ocean to become completely still before learning to swim. You'll wait forever. Life will always be messy. Unexpected events will always appear. Plans will change. People will disappoint you. Technology will fail. Schedules will shift. The question isn't whether life will become chaotic. It will. The question is whether your system is strong enough to survive the chaos. A good productivity system isn't one that works only during peaceful weeks. It's one that continues working even when life becomes unpredictable. Think about your phone for a moment. Every few days, dozens of notifications appear. Messages, emails, news alerts, social media, calendar reminders, promotions, weather updates. Every notification competes for one thing: your attention. Attention has become one of the world's most valuable resources. Companies spend billions trying to capture it. Every application is carefully designed to encourage one more click, one more swipe, one more minute. Before you know it, an hour disappears. Then another. Most people blame technology, but technology isn't the enemy. Unintentional use is. Imagine giving someone a powerful sports car. The car isn't dangerous by itself. It depends entirely on who's driving. Your phone is the same. Used intentionally, it becomes an incredible tool. Used carelessly, it quietly controls your day. David Allen's system gives your attention a destination before distractions can steal it. Instead of waking up and asking, "What should I do today?" you already know. Your system has answered the question before your phone gets the chance. That simple difference changes everything. Because every moment spent deciding is another opportunity for distraction to enter. Let's talk about one of the biggest myths surrounding productivity. Being productive doesn't mean filling every minute with work. In fact, the opposite is often true. Imagine listening to your favorite piece of music. Now imagine removing every pause between the notes. The melody would become noise. Those moments of silence are what make the music beautiful. Life works exactly the same way. Rest isn't the opposite of productivity. It's part of productivity. Your brain isn't a machine. It needs recovery. Think about professional athletes. They don't train every hour of every day. Recovery is built into their schedule because that's when muscles actually grow stronger. Your mind follows the same principle. Deep thinking requires deep recovery. Some of your greatest ideas won't appear while you're working. They'll appear while you're walking through a park, taking a shower, watching the sunset, having a quiet conversation, or simply sitting without your phone for a few minutes. A busy mind rarely produces brilliant ideas. A clear mind often does. That's one reason David Allen emphasizes mental clarity over endless activity. Because creativity doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in space. Imagine trying to paint a masterpiece on a canvas that's already completely covered. There's no room left. Many of us treat our minds exactly like that overcrowded canvas. We leave no empty space for new thoughts. No room for imagination. No room for curiosity. No room for reflection. Yet those quiet moments often become the birthplace of life's biggest breakthroughs. History is filled with discoveries that happened when people stepped away from work rather than forcing themselves harder. Sometimes the fastest way forward is to pause. Not quit. Pause. There's another lesson worth remembering. Productivity is deeply personal. What works for someone else may not work for you. Some people love digital planners. Others prefer notebooks. Some enjoy planning every hour. Others only organize their most important priorities. There's no universal system. David Allen never suggests copying someone else's life. Instead, he encourages building a trusted system that matches your own way of thinking. Because the best productivity system isn't the most complicated one. It's the one you'll actually continue using. Simplicity creates consistency. Complexity creates excuses. Whenever your system becomes difficult to maintain, simplify it. If a notebook works better than 5 different apps, use the notebook. If one list works better than 10 categories, keep one list. The goal isn't to impress people with an elaborate planning method. The goal is to free your attention. Always remember that tools exist to support your life. Your life should never become a servant to your tools. Imagine buying an expensive planner that spends more time organizing itself than helping you accomplish meaningful work. That's not productivity. That's decoration. The system should disappear into the background. You shouldn't constantly think about managing your productivity. You should simply live your life while the system quietly supports you. That's when you've built something truly effective. As we continue exploring David Allen's remarkable philosophy, one final habit quietly connects everything we've discussed so far. It isn't about capturing tasks. It isn't about organizing lists. It isn't even about completing projects. It's about something far more important. Stepping back regularly to make sure the life you're building is still the life you actually want. Because productivity without reflection can make you incredibly efficient at climbing the wrong mountain. And sometimes, the most productive thing you can do isn't adding another task to your list. It's asking yourself one honest question. Am I spending my time on the things that truly matter? That single question has the power to change not just your schedule, but your entire life. That simple question deserves more attention than most people ever give it. Am I spending my time on the things that truly matter? It's uncomfortable because it forces us to be honest. Many of us spend years climbing ladders without ever asking whether they're leaning against the right wall. We become incredibly efficient at doing things that don't bring us closer to the life we actually want. David Allen believed productivity wasn't about squeezing every second out of your day. It was about creating enough clarity that you could make conscious choices instead of living on autopilot. And this is where one of the most powerful habits in the entire GTD system comes into play. The weekly review. At first, it doesn't sound exciting. In fact, it sounds almost boring. Set aside some time once a week to review your commitments, organize your lists, update your projects, and clear your inbox. Simple enough. So why is it so important? Because life changes. Every single week, new responsibilities appear, old priorities disappear, goals evolve, unexpected opportunities arrive, problems demand your attention. If you never stop to review your life, your system slowly fills with outdated commitments that no longer deserve your energy. Imagine driving a car across an entire country without ever looking at the dashboard. You never check your fuel. You ignore the warning lights. You don't notice the engine temperature. Eventually, something goes wrong. Not because the journey was impossible, but because you stopped paying attention to what mattered. Your weekly review is your dashboard. It's your chance to step out of the chaos and ask, what deserves my attention now? What no longer matters? What have I been avoiding? What is my next meaningful step? Notice something important. Not your next giant leap. Your next meaningful step. That's because meaningful lives are built one meaningful step at a time. During these reviews, you'll often notice something surprising. Many of the things that felt urgent a few days ago suddenly seem unimportant. That stressful email, it worked. That opportunity you thought you couldn't miss, it wasn't as valuable as it seemed. That worry that kept you awake, it solved itself without your intervention. Distance creates perspective, and perspective protects your peace. Without reflection, every problem feels enormous. With reflection, many of them shrink to their true size. David Allen also encourages us to think beyond today's tasks. He describes different levels of focus. Imagine your life as an airplane. When you're on the runway, all you can see are the few meters directly ahead. That's your daily tasks, the emails, the meetings, the phone calls, the groceries, the assignments, necessary, but limited. Now imagine the airplane taking off. As you climb higher, your view expands. You begin to see entire neighborhoods, cities, rivers, mountains. The higher you rise, the more clearly you understand where everything fits. Life is the same. Daily actions matter, but occasionally, you need to rise above them. Ask yourself, where do I want to be 1 year from now? What kind of person am I becoming? What values guide my decisions? What legacy do I hope to leave behind? These questions don't require daily answers, but they deserve regular attention. Because your calendar reflects your priorities. But your priorities should reflect your values. There's an important difference. Imagine spending years becoming incredibly successful at something you never truly wanted. From the outside, people admire you. Inside, you feel empty. Why? Because achievement without purpose rarely creates fulfillment. David Allen reminds us that productivity should serve our lives. Our lives should never become servants to productivity. Think about a compass. Its purpose isn't to move you. Its purpose is to keep you moving in the right direction. Your goals work the same way. Your daily actions are the footsteps. Your values are the compass. Without both, it's easy to become lost. Now let's take a moment to look back at everything we've learned. We discovered that our brains are brilliant at generating ideas but terrible at storing them. We learned that every unfinished commitment quietly consumes mental energy. We saw how capturing thoughts in a trusted system creates space for focus. We explored the importance of defining the next physical action instead of becoming overwhelmed by giant projects. We understood why tiny actions create massive long-term results. We realized that productivity isn't about doing more. It's about thinking more clearly. We learned that saying yes to everything eventually means saying no to what matters most. We discovered that reviewing our lives regularly prevents us from drifting away from our goals. And perhaps most importantly, we realized that peace of mind isn't something you accidentally find. It's something you intentionally create. Imagine two people ending the same workday. The first closes their laptop but keeps working mentally for the rest of the evening. They're thinking about tomorrow's meeting, the unfinished report, the forgotten email, the growing list of responsibilities. Their body leaves work. Their mind never does. The second person also has unfinished work. But every task has already been captured. Every project has a next action. Every responsibility has a trusted place. They know exactly where they'll begin tomorrow. So when they close their laptop, they truly stop working, not because everything is finished, because everything is under control. That's the kind of freedom David Allen wants every reader to experience. Not a life without responsibilities. A life without unnecessary mental burden. Because there will always be more to do. There will always be another email, another meeting, another opportunity, another challenge. The goal isn't reaching the end of your to-do list. There is no end. The goal is learning how to move through life with confidence instead of constant anxiety. And maybe that's the greatest lesson hidden inside this book. A productive life isn't measured by how busy you are. It's measured by how present you can be. Present while you're working. Present while you're resting. Present with your family. Present with your friends. Present with yourself. Because the moments that truly matter are happening right now. Not someday. Not after you finish every task. Not after you become successful. Now. So before we end this journey, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Tonight, before you go to sleep, take a blank sheet of paper or open a simple notes app. Write down everything that's occupying your mind. Every task, every promise, every idea, every worry, every responsibility. Don't organize it. Don't judge it. Just empty your mind onto the page. Then look at that list. For the first time, you'll see something remarkable. The things that once felt like an invisible weight now have a place outside your head. And sometimes, that's the first step toward changing your entire life. Because clarity isn't found by thinking harder. It's found by thinking less about what you no longer need to carry. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this book changed the way you think about productivity, focus, or peace of mind, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear which idea resonated with you the most. And if you enjoy thoughtful book summaries that help you grow, think differently, and apply powerful ideas to your everyday life, make sure to subscribe to Volume and Vision and turn on notifications so you never miss a new journey. Until next time, remember this: your greatest asset isn't your time, it's your attention. Protect it wisely, and it will transform every area of your life. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next book. This is Volume and Vision, where every page becomes a new perspective.